Welcome back to the National Student Electronic Media Convention. This is Adobe Audition Tips and Tricks with John Morris, as you can see there. I'm Lynn Riggle. I am the Development Director for CBI. I want to thank you so much for being with us on this Friday, 4:30 Eastern Time. And so I apologize for West Coasters or Central Time. I'm always going to say it's 4:30 just because I'm on the East Coast. So we appreciate you being here. Just a reminder, the session is being recorded in the Attendify platform, and we'll let you know when it's available for on-demand viewing. Also, if you're having trouble hearing or seeing John, just make sure you're using Google Chrome, and then you might need to refresh and just wait a minute or so for the bandwidth to catch up. You should be able to see and hear him as long as you're using Google Chrome. The latest version, I should say, if you have any questions or concerns about that, you can reach out to any of the CBI board members in the town hall and we can help you through that. Also want to let you know when the session's done and you go back in the town hall. It's a great place to network with all the other attendees here. You can see the list of attendees that we have, as well as we encourage you to check out our sponsor portal as well. I work with our sponsors and have no qualms in saying that without their support over the years, we would not be able to put on events like this. So we really want to thank them. And then just keep your alarm on your phone. Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we wrap up the convention this year with one of the major highlights. It's the National Student Production Awards at 7 o'clock. So we always look forward to that and seeing what student organizations are doing, what great work they're doing and producing. And then finally, after the convention, if you're not part of the CBI listserv, we really encourage you to join it. There's all kinds of discussions on there, great ways to network, get questions answered. All you have to do is just go to askcbi.org, then just click on resources and email listserv, and you can go ahead and sign up there. Without further ado, I am going to turn it over to John.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to everybody who's joining. I'm going to play some audio for just a moment, and I want to just make sure that you can hear it. So if you would just put in the comments here in a moment, if you can hear it, just say yes or I can hear it. What you're going to hear a little bit is these are some productions that students at our station at the University of Southern Indiana have done. So I'm going to play just a little bit.
USI students everywhere are raving about the Way Too Early in the Morning show.
I love Rizzo and Lindsay. I did a case study on them for my abnormal psych class.
You're named after Lindsay Lohan, right?
No! Are you kidding me? I got an A.
I compare it to a TV movie. You know, the kind you never buy, but watch when it comes on.
Jennifer Lopez is on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She's there for
Her hindquarters?
yes, and that's why I don't like Jennifer Lopez.
Why don't I have a
So can you hear this out there in Attendify land?
Once I snuck into the station after they left, and I found a piece of Rizzo's hair. I keep it in a jar with me at all times.
Okay. There you have it, the Way Too Early in the Morning show with
Good deal.
Rizzo and Lindsay every weekday morning from 7 to 9, only on the Edge Radio, Southern Indiana's triple threat. Somebody has claimed ownership of the sun.
Yeah, and she's going to start charging people who use the sun.
How is she going to collect money from the Martian?
Yeah, or like deer.
Or deer, yes, deers don't have a form of currency.
They just have hooves.
Way too early.
So what you heard there, that's one of the promos that ran on our station. And I've always been proud of the students we have at the University of Southern Indiana. And we have a pretty strong track record of some outstanding audio production students. And we being the students, they've won numerous national awards. And this year, going to the awards announcements tonight, we didn't get as a finalist in any category. And so I'll tell you what, that's been used as some real strong motivation by the staff, because we're used to being there, but it doesn't always guarantee that you're going to have it. And I'm the president of CBI, so it tells you nobody did us any favors. All right, what I want to do is show you a variety of things today on Adobe Audition. My general hope is that you know how to use the basics of Adobe Audition, and then I'm going to show you a variety of things that you can do to clean stuff up, to make it smoother, what happens if there's some mistakes in there, and we'll see how much time we have, and then we'll see how many things we get through. Lynn, because I'll be working on Adobe Audition, I really won't be able to see the comments. If anybody has any comments or anything, if you'd just jump in and say, hey, we have a question or a comment. All right, one of the first things I want to show you, and this is just something that I really enjoy doing. It's fun to get into this, and that is going in and finding a sound that you didn't want in there. Let's say you're doing an interview with somebody and there's a sound in the background and you certainly don't want that sound. How can you go in and get that? And that's one of the first things I'm going to show you. So all I've done is pull it up. We're in the single track waveform, and I'll play this for a moment and you'll hear where we have an issue. No, that's a killer. And we've all been there. Sometimes we've been guilty ourselves of you're in your sound booth, you've got the band in there, certainly if you're recording a live concert, and all of a sudden you get the dreaded cell phone. The other one would be in classical concerts. One of the big ones would be somebody coughs. You're going, oh, stop that. You're getting in the way of the recording. So what can we do to clean this up? One of the interesting things about working with Adobe Audition, I'm going to show you one way to do this, but there's really, for almost everything, about 3 or 4 different ways that you can accomplish the same thing. I'm going to show you how to go in and visually grab something, but you could jump into the EQ and find out what the frequency is for it and bring that down. So the cell phone that we're working with is right there. Of course, in this view, I can't see anything other than just the waveform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to View, and with that, I'm going to turn on the Show Spectral Frequency display. And what this is going to do is it shows me now along this line is time. So this sound right here correlates with what we're seeing in the waveform here. But then as we go up on the right here, that's the frequency. And the louder a sound is in a specific frequency, the brighter it's going to be. And with that, we're able to see very, very clearly here where the cell phone is. Because you look here, everything looks good, and then this just stands out. Wow, how did that get there? So we're going to listen. All right. So I don't want to go in and damage any more audio than I have to. Always remember, what you want is as clean a signal up front, and once you have that, you're going to be able to do a lot of things. But every time you have to go in and do stuff in post-production to clean something up, it's going to have a breakdown somewhere. There's going to be an impact. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of the cell phone rings. And you can tell that it comes across basically in 3 different frequency ranges. One right here, one right here, and one right here. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab this box right here, the marquee selection tool, and you can see that it does have a keyboard shortcut. I will not be using keyboard shortcuts as I talk about this so people can see where everything is, but if you do a lot of editing and you have your own computer, learn to use keyboard shortcuts. It'll really speed things up. So I'm going to click here, and now I'm going to come down here, and you can see I've got the little X when I bring it into the spectral view. And if I come here and I'm going to get tight, I'm going to come in here, get what I want, highlight what I want, and then I'm going to hit delete. And you can see now that that portion of the frequency is gone. But we still have this down here, of course. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to grab the same area. I'm just clicking and dragging. I'm going to hit delete, going to click off of it. Now let's hear what we have. You know what? As I'm going to zoom in a little tighter here, and you can actually see that there's some of the extended range on this that was still bleeding through on that last one. And so you're going to come in and clean it up. And it's gotten better, but we're still hearing some of it. You could always come in and delete the whole section, but when you do that, we may have gotten rid of the phone, but we've also gotten rid of some of the sounds that we want. Although if you look down here at the bottom, this is where the bulk of the audio is, the frequency that we're listening to. And obviously, that's horrible. So the first ones would have been better to work with. And I'm just going to go hit Control-Z or Command-Z. I'm on a Mac. Another option you can do, and if you do Photoshop and some of the other Adobe products, you've got a brush and a spot healing. It works pretty much the same way. So I'm going to do a spot healing on here, and I'm just going to come in and clean up what I want.
John, quick question as you're doing this. Jen wants to know if it's called the marquee selection tool. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, the marquee, M-A-R-Q-U-E-E. And just seeing if, yeah, because as I'm looking at it, it drops a little box underneath that says marquee, but what's coming across that you all can see isn't on there, but it'll say marquee. So it's just up here in this area, and it's the little square box. Or for what I was doing here was the spot healing. And so I came in and cleaned this one up some, and this one will be a little smoother because the computer goes in, analyzes it, and goes, how can we clean this and make it a little bit smoother? And so I've got that. I'm going to zoom in tighter too so that I can really see. Whenever you can, you want to zoom in tight. Now let's see if we've done okay. We're still getting some of this in here. So this one, the frequency off of this is really, this one's a little tougher to hit. We're even getting down some into here. And the advantage of working with this is you can come in. And you know what's funny? This is one of those, whenever you do anything live, I was working on this just minutes ago, and it was doing everything I wanted. When I was done, it had come through it, and it sounded absolutely fantastic. And now it's getting to be a little bud there. Right here is that ratty-tat-tat that we're hearing. So I'm going to use that, and then I'm actually going to cut, well, let's see. We got rid of some. And so this is a way you can get rid of it. And of course, while I'm showing you right now, it's not doing what I want. But that can really work really well. And part of the issue that I've run into is some of the frequency very much crosses over with some of the frequency that I want. So that's one area. Then another, how many of you have ever done an interview? And this is going to be pretty much everybody, if you've done an interview, and when it was all said and done, the levels weren't correct. One person was real loud, another, or loud enough, and the other person wasn't as loud as they needed to be. So we've got this interview here. Now, just so you know, this is an interview one of my students did. I went in and actually made these levels bad so that we could see the difference. And one of the goals you want to do is, if somebody was listening to your production on your station or in your podcast, if they were listening with earbuds or even just listening over the radio, if they have to go and adjust the volume, change the volume, turn it down because right here it's so loud, and then they got to turn it up here because it's quiet, and then they got to turn it down because it's loud, we've failed as audio producers because we need to make it where it's smooth so that the listener can just get themselves lost in the moment and not have to worry about levels. So we've got...
Hello and welcome to the local show with Casey. Today in the house we have Ben Dahlquist. Say hello.
Hey guys and gals.
How's it going? How's your day going?
I'll tell you, my day is going real well.
So you hear the difference there. This is just too quiet. And then here we're even a little too loud just in general because this waveform extends all the way to the box that's available. So it stretches all the way to 0 dB. And dB is a measurement system of how loud something is. And 0 is actually 100%. Sometimes you'll see meters that are in the percents, 80, 90, 100. And for a dB, 100% is 0. So what I want to do is I want to bring this up. And I could come in to each one of these and I could grab this little floating VU meter and bring it up. But if I have an interview like this one was, that was an hour long, that's going to take forever. So instead, what I can do is I can come up to my options across the top. Let me make sure you're going to be able to see these as I come up to them. Well, what I'm doing is I'm going off up onto the top, and I can go to either effects, or I can, if I've saved it, I can go into favorites. But if I go into effects and then amplitude compression, and I'm going to scoot something over just a little bit. This is one I didn't expect. I expected you to be able to see what I'm actually doing up here. But so I'm up above here would be the toolbar, you know, with all the written words. And so I'm going to go to effects. Effects is going to be one of your best friends. So I'm going effects and then amplitude and compression. So effects, amplitude, and compression. And then you go down second from the end to something called speech volume leveler. And it's going to do just that. It's going to take the spoken word and it's going to go to a level that you set. And so I'm going to click speech volume leveler. And what's popped up here for me, and I did not realize this wouldn't show up on this, but what's popped up is a box that's going to allow me to set the level. And there are some presets on here. I can do custom if I want, or I can, like I said, there's some presets. So I'm going to click medium on this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click apply. And so again, we went effects, amplitude compression, speech volume leveler, and I chose medium here. And when I click it, look at what happens, especially to these quiet areas, the ones where the audio is not loud enough, and here it's too loud. So I'm going to click apply, and now everything is consistent here. Now let's hear it.
Quiz, say hello.
Hey guys and gals.
How's it going? How's your day going?
I'll tell you, my day is going real well because...
And there we go. We now have a very level. We still have the peaks and valleys. It doesn't do anything overall to the pitch and frequency response and stuff, but it set the levels so that they're consistent. One thing you have to be very careful about, though, when you do this is if you have a noisy background. Here in a minute, we're gonna grab some audio that has an air conditioner in the background. If you have that kind of noise in the background, it's going to work with that as well. And a lot of times it's either going to elevate that sound too much, or it's going to really what you would call warble, that it'll impact and get in the way of the spoken word. So you need to be in a pretty clean environment. If we have some people here that are in the sports department, if you interviewed a coach before a ball game and there's the noise of the warm-up and probably, music over the speaker, you're not going to be able to use this properly because by the time you use it, it's going to mess up everything. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this one. And then because I just talked about the air conditioner, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Real quick before you move on, there's a question with speech volume leveler, dead air during a phone interview. Is that boosted? Or excuse me, it is boosted. How do you fix that? Can you do that with speech volume leveler?
There's a couple of ways you can do that, but speech volume leveler wouldn't be the one that you would do. I'll tell you what, I'll show you here in, let me see where I have that's my air conditioner. I need one other thing, and I'm gonna answer the question that you asked about, and I had that right in front of me, and here we go. This will be kind of a way you could get around that. And I would do this before I would go to the speech volume leveler because it will increase everything. So if you have that background noise and you do speech volume leveler, that background noise is going to come up as well. So one thing I always recommend you do when you're going to do an interview, before you start the actual interview, tell whoever you're going to talk to, the band or whatever, all right, I'm going to start recording for a few seconds, and if you are around a lot of professionals, it's going to be 10 seconds, literally 10 seconds. And they're going to go, I'm going to record for 10 seconds. I need everybody to be absolutely quiet. And they'll start recording. And so there, hopefully you can hear that air conditioner sound. And why they do that is they want to be able to grab that air conditioner solely by itself so that then they can go in, and which I'm about to show you, they can go in and grab that, get a sample of it, analyze it, and then get rid of it. And so again, I would do this before I'd ever get to the speech volume leveler, get rid of those background noise. So here's the interview.
I'm going to tell you, he was a data guy. He studied.
And you can hear that gets in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to grab a sample. If you get in too tight, less than a second, sometimes it's going to tell you there's not enough sample. But so what I'm going to do, and again, I know you can't see exactly what I'm doing, so I'll say it a few times. So I've highlighted.
Someone did mention if you could maybe get full screen on Audition, that they might be able to see the menu.
Let's see. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay. Well, that was worth a try. So I will continue to explain step by step. So I'm going to get this highlighted, what portion I want. Absolutely make sure you don't get any portion of the recording that has any voice in it, because if you do, it's going to ruin it. But right here, all it is air conditioner. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to grab the air conditioner, and I'm going to come up and I'll give you the step by step. I'm going to go to effects. And just some people some people actually, you can come down here. I'm clicking down lower. Can you see this now? Where it drops across on the bottom left, and I have another box up that says noise reduction.
I do not see that.
Rats. I was hoping we could see it down here.
Yes, maybe. Well, it's hard to tell down there.
Let me see. I'll bail out of this for just a sec. I'm trying to make this as friendly and as usable for all of you. I click this here. No, it's not showing up even though that's there. But okay, so I'm going to go effects, and then just straight down, just about halfway, just a hair past halfway down, is something called noise reduction restoration. And of course, right now we want to reduce something. We don't want to restore it at this point. So we're going to go noise reduction, and straight across to the right of that, another box jumps up that is capture noise print. And what you want to do is you want to click on capture noise print. So again, effects, noise reduction, capture noise print. And when I click on that, and it says, there we go. What has happened when I did that, the computer, the program went in and analyzed everything, all the sound bits within this part that I have highlighted. It hasn't done anything to it yet. It just went in and analyzed this 1 second or so that I have. Now I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to go back to effects, noise reduction, and then right under capture noise print that I had just a moment ago is noise reduction. And when I click on that, again, it's effects, noise reduction, then noise reduction again. When I click that, it's going to bring up a box, and it's got all sorts of pretty colors on it that shows me exactly what the frequencies are that this sampled. And what I'm going to do is click apply. And when I click apply, look in this area that I highlighted and see what happens. What it's going to do is the program's going, okay, I sampled everything in here, and now when Mr. Morris clicks apply, we're going to get rid of everything that was sampled in there. So I'm ready and go. Now it's clean. But so this was just grabbing this up front. But of course, what I want to do is come in and clean up the actual interview here. So if I come in here, I still have that sample in that noise reduction area. So I've highlighted what I want. I'm going to go again, effects, noise reduction, and then again, the next box that comes up, noise reduction. And I'm about to click apply, and what you're going to see is you're going to see that background noise go away. And here we go.
And he knew the potential here, and he had been at other institutions, so he knew how to put the pieces together to help it reach its potential. And in the early years, they predicted enrollments of 10 to 15,000.
And there you can hear, I didn't remove the air conditioner there, and what a difference it makes. Now, the recording itself is not a fantastic recording. This was at a public event. They couldn't get the mic real close to the person, so we don't have that good crisp sound. But
to help it reach its potential. And in the early years, they predicted enrollments of 10 to 15,000.
And that's with the air conditioner not removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out of this whole thing, and I'm going to just highlight everything. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing I've done. Effects, noise reduction, and noise reduction again in the next box. It'll pop up this box for me to apply, and I'm going to click it, and bam, there we go.
Doctoral program. So he knew how.
And now we have a usable piece of audio. I'm going to show you what can go wrong if we grab the sample incorrectly. And this is why professionals go, I need everybody to be quiet for 10 seconds so that I have a big sample to work with. But sometimes people forget that, and you're trying to grab the pauses between the spoken word. But let's say we want to come here and we accidentally, and if we accidentally this much, this is a problem, we accidentally get some of the voice in there.
In the early.
And now if I go back and I'm going effects, noise reduction, capture noise print, all that's doing is sampling it. And now I go run effects, noise reduction, and click apply. It got rid of the spoken part as well as the air conditioner.
Early years they.
And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that same process to this whole recording, and I'm going to click apply. Sometimes you can get a really, really cool robotic effect out of this. And I I'm going to come here and get a noise sample out of here. I want to get a little bit larger. I captured the noise print. I come here, and now I'm going to run noise reduction, and I'm going to click apply. And now listen.
You know, you have to have a good foundation.
And it was so much there, it couldn't figure out what it needed to do. A lot of times after you do that, it'll actually turn the spoken word into this really, really cool robotic sound, which if you're going for some sci-fi thing, that might be an avenue you're looking for. But let's get back to, let's make this clean because we want it to be clean. I'm going to go effects, and I'm going to have to sample again. And I keep getting this little box asking me if it's okay, and of course it's okay because I told you to do it. And I'm going to close this for just a sec because it's gotten so deep in there. I should have gone Command undo, but I'm going to go ahead and just come back in and bring this in again. So this is that exact same thing we were looking at. I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab the noise print. Now I'm going to click off it so it impacts everything, and noise reduction, and we're ready to go. And
I'm going to tell you as a data guy.
Better in here. Now, one of the things that we're looking at here is our levels are really, really low. And you can see all of this empty space up here. That's all area where, for the most part, all of it, we should have some of the audio. And so we need to make this louder. When you become some of you want to do this professionally. So when you go in, you do your production, be it news or be it a PSA, promo, commercial, whatever. The levels need to be very consistent because when you send it to another station, a lot of times they're not even going to check the levels. They're just going to put it in their automation system and let it go. And if your levels are low or too high, but in this case too low, we're going to hear that commercial before, and then yours is going to be way down here. So we need to make sure it's nice and clean. So what I want to do here is normalize. And when we go to normalize, we're going to be taking these, this is the left track and the right track. It's going to grow whatever's the loudest sound. And I think this is probably the loudest sound. If not, it's going to be right over here. And it's going to grow it to a certain level that I want it to grow to. So what I'm going to do here is go effects, amplitude, and compression. And then I'm going to go normalize. So normalize is the process we're going to want to do. By the way, under favorites, there also is, and you can cut down on a couple of clicks, there's also normalize there, and it's normalized to 0.1 dB, which is going to take us way up here, or it'll normalize it to minus 3 dB, which is going to take it here. So I'm going to go ahead and normalize it to minus 3 dB, and it grew everything. And it grew, let's say this grew, and I don't know what the percentage is, but let's say this grew by 15%. And this is the loudest. It also took the quietest sounds and grew it by 15%. That's why I would go in and do that noise reduction on the front end so that it doesn't grow everything within there. I'm just running through noise reduction again. There.
I'm going to tell you as a data guy. He studied population trends and academic trends, and he knew the potential here. And he had been at other institutions.
All right. So that we now have ourselves a nice, as far as we could do with this, a nice clean recording. If I wanted to go to minus 0.1 dB, which I'm going to click on that right now, it grew, and actually right here is the loud, it's down here. This is the loudest sound. It's actually in the trough of this wave, and it grew to almost all the way off the chart, which once you get outside of what's visible with how we're looking at it here, it's too loud. You can start introducing distortion. So most people are going to say that this is too loud. We need to scale back just a little bit. And you'll hear audio engineers argue if -1 dB, which is about right here, or -3 dB is the correct sound or the correct level. Know that this is an art, not purely a science, so therefore you're going to get some disagreements with what comes in. All right.
John, a quick question from Roger. He says instead of using normalize like you just did right there, would multi-band compression and then broadcast be a good option to normalize the audio?
I'm going to say you're not supposed to ask that question because that's next. And so, yes, there are some people that will actually go to normalization first, and then what I'm about to show you with multi-band compression, I think, truthfully, you're kind of adding a step that doesn't have to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring in another file, and yeah, not many people know about multi-band compression, and I can tell you with some of the work some of my students have done, let me see, find the right, I will find, here, we'll do this one. Adding multi-band compression to your product gives it an extra kick. And it's not just audio levels. It's not just the volume. But multi-band compression will actually go in and work on different frequencies. So let me first tell you how to get to this. I know, again, you're not able to see this clearly, but I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going back to Amplitude and Compression. Amplitude and Compression, because I'm dealing with amplitude is volume, although this will do more than volume. We're dealing ultimately with volume. And so I'm going Effects, Amplitude, and then I'm going to go Multi-Band Compressor. Now, I want to talk real quickly a little bit about what a compressor is. We tend to think of the word compress and it makes everything smaller. That is one type of compression that can happen. But another kind of compression like this actually can expand stuff. And in a multi-band compressor, or and then specifically we'll talk about one of the presets called broadcast, what it'll actually do based on the settings is it will bring, for this one, for the deep low bass tones, it's actually going to compress. It's going to limit them a little bit. But then in that 100 to 1,000 hertz in the frequency, it's going to expand those a little bit. And we're not talking volume necessarily. We're talking the frequency, and then it's going to work with the volume. So I've come in and I've got that multi-band compressor, and one of the best presets in here is broadcast. Everybody should go try this. Go record your voice.
This morning, quite shocked to discover we were
and try this on your voice. This setting tends to work a little better with guys' voices, where women often have to go in and finagle it a little bit more because guys' voices tend to be more bassy. So what I have is I've got the waveform we're dealing with. I'm in the multi-band compressor, and I've come to broadcast. Then there's some, if you could see this, there's a little window that will actually show me what it's doing to each of the frequencies. And then there's something off to the right called output gain. And the output gain is back to, do I want it to come all the way up to 0 dB? Do I want it minus 1 dB or minus 3 dB? I'm going to go with 3 dB. And I'm actually going to do this in the middle of this instead of the whole thing so that you can see it. So I'm at minus 3 dB, this which I highlighted. And if I click apply, you can see that the loudest sound, which is right down here, came to minus 3. but it kept the integrity of pretty much everything else. It didn't do speech volume leveler. It went in and sampled each of those areas. So let's hear if we can actually hear what a difference it made.
Appeared behind a clothing rack on the first floor, while another went insane as we hiked through the 420 department and...
Right there. And you probably, especially if you're just using your computer speakers, it just sounds like volume increased. But if you have decent headset on, you would actually hear the richness of the voice pick up. It's going to bring those low middle frequencies up, and it's going to give it a real punch.
Insane as we hiked through the 420 department and refused to leave.
And so I really encourage you to work on compression. Now, I will say, you know, this is off of what you were talking about. One of the people who asked about using multi-band compression. I've worked with other audio engineers, and they would almost call this sacrilege, that they dislike compression. So be it. Find what's going to work for you and what's going to fit your station sound. I want to show you something that's very interesting when it comes to audio. And see if I can find what I am looking for here. One of the things you should never do is move audio around right before you go on and start working with everything, because I moved it from my cloud to the desktop, and sometimes that doesn't work like I want. But I'm going to bring in classical music, and I'm going to bring in rock music. We've all seen this. We've all heard it. One of the interesting things that when you compare visually rock music versus classical music, it comes down to compression. If you listen to any top 40 contemporary hit radio station, they compress the living lights out of that music. They want everything to be in your face. They want it thumping right there. And so they're going to fill everything up. And as you look at this is a piece of production music. And you can see it comes all the way up and not only gets to 0 dB, but extends a little past 0 dB. And what you don't have are those quieter moments. So it's cranking, it's in your face. And yes, you could bring the volume down on it, but it's still compressed. It's going to be right in front of you. But when we get classical music, we don't want that. We want to hear maybe the piccolo, which I'm not sure why there's a piccolo because I can never hear it, but there's a piccolo playing and we want to hear that piccolo and it's going to be softer. And then we're going to have the kettle drums where they're banging on that and that's going to be louder. If we ran that through a compressor, it would basically bring those two levels to the same. We don't want that in classical music. So it's softer. We're bringing in a little bit louder here. We're going to bring in some more elements. And then even over here where we really get the orchestra going, it's still not just packed. Do you hear some of those lower deep frequencies coming through? And you can, but they're in the background, they're not in front. If I wanted to run this through a compressor, I'd be doing the exact same thing, going to multi-band compressor. I'm going to go ahead and do the broadcast, and I'm going to pop this whole thing through there. Look what I just did. It just made everything louder. It's in your face. And what it did is it brought up some of those lower sounds that if you're in the orchestra, you really don't want brought up. You want it to be heard, but you don't want it in your face. Now we have, and actually let me go through and I'll just get half of it so we can really compare. Again, I'm going effects, amplitude and compression, multi-band compression. I've got the broadcast setting, and here I am. if you heard that, it wasn't horrible, but it just, you start getting this in your face, and that's not what classical music is about. You want to have that wide range. So again, rock, classical. And so we talked about doing the multi-band compression. Let's say you go in, you get your voice, and I would come in here, and let's actually go ahead and go to multi-track so that we can work with this. I'm going to bring in this voice, and I want to come back to this screen so it's more visual. You can do this in multi-track, but it doesn't change visually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run this through a multi-band compressor, and I have it all ready to broadcast. I'm going to hit it. Bam. There we are.
New Purple East concession area.
Now, there's a couple of issues with the actual recording. There's some real problems with plosives. When he hits the P's, it hits real hard. We'll look at that in a minute. But I'm going to come back to multi-track, and we have that louder. Let's bring in some rock music. So I'm going to drop the rock. And people have different approaches. I like to put my spoken word all in the top tracks, and then music and sound effects down lower. Some do it opposite. You can change colors to group things, whatever the case, whatever works for you. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to bring this music down, and I've got...
Quite shocked to discover we were only feet from several...
The level's not too bad on that. Okay, so I've run the voice through multi-band compression. Here's the music. So I'm going to mix it down here. I'm going to export it, and I'm going to mix down the entire session. And I'm just going to click OK. And right here, by solo.
We remained still, and they passed without notice.
And you can hear that with the music in the background. I actually brought the music down a little too much. But so I ran the voice through multi-band compression. Then I added the music. Then I did the mix down. I would come back. And again, in this final step, you've done your mix down. Let's run it through the multi-band compressor again. Let's apply it. And now let's hear it.
We were only feet from several skateboarders. We remained still, and they passed without noticing us.
And that sounds pretty good. And because it ran through the multi-band compressor, it actually pulled the music up in the background some to be stronger. Somebody might go, well, hold it. That rock music was already compressed. It was. And we just compressed it again. But so what we tell our people is when you record your voice, once you get what you want, you run that through multi-band compressor. Then you go add everything you want to it. You get the sound effects, you get this and that. Then you go and export it or mix down, and then you run it through the multi-band compressor again. And that will get you a really strong, solid sweeper. Now, that being said, if I'm a classical radio station, ignore everything I just said because we don't want that in the face like that. So I'm going to close this. I want to come back to the one voice that is in here. And I want to work on a couple of things. And then I know we're at about 10 minutes left. I certainly want to make sure that I have some time to show you a trick to doing real quick sweepers. But so this is from one of my classes, and this announcer who did this, he's outstanding as he's learned. But this is one of the earlier things he did, and he hadn't learned microphone technique yet. And every microphone has different responses. This microphone picked up the popping and plosives of P's and B's and heavy breaths. And you can hear it, and I'll play it, and we'll look at a couple.
This morning, quite shocked to...
Right here's one. Right there is one, but I want to go to a P.
Quite shocked to discover we were only feet from several skateboarders. We remained still, and they passed without noticing us, probably on the way to the new Purple East concession area. Unfortunately, I've lost both my comrades today. One disappeared.
So the big sound that we heard is up front, and it's going to be...
This morning, quite shocked.
Do you see this? Do you see how this is so out of the ordinary? It's a waveform that you're looking at and you're going, why is that there? That is a plosive, and this plosive actually comes off of just a regular breath, not a P or a B.
This morning, quite shocked.
And so there's a variety of things that I can do, and one of them is very simple and straightforward. I could come in here and I could just lower the level, and I could bring it all the way down.
This morning, quite shocked.
That's not good because you can actually hear that it drops out. So I'm going to bring it down some.
This morning, quite shocked to discover.
I'm still getting some of it that I really don't like within
This
there.
morning, quite.
And it's right here. What should have happened with that, I'll move this so I can actually see the screen. What this announcer should have done when he was talking, the microphone was right in front of him. So he was speaking directly into it. And when he did that, the kind of microphone we have, which is really good mic, but it's sensitive to plosives. And right now, because of COVID, we don't have windscreens. He was talking right into it. And in that microphone is a diaphragm. And when he says the words, that diaphragm's bouncing back and forth. But when you hit it with a plosive, it goes bam, and it stays and it overdrives the microphone and then comes back and does its stuff. Instead of talking directly into it, if he'd have turned that microphone at about a 45-degree angle, now when his voice hits it, it's going to roll across the diaphragm. Instead of hitting all at once, it'll roll across there, and you're not going to get that plosive in there. And so you want to try everything you can to stay away from plosives. They, especially now, those of you that are in audio production, that's why you're here, you're going to start hearing those, and you're going to hate them. And it'll really drive you up the wall to get that. So what is one of the ways that I can do that? One is, again, I can delete it and hope it works.
This morning, quite shocked to discover.
It's actually, I'd take that more than the original because I really dislike that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter than I was, and I'm going to bring this across more. I'm going to lower it. See if that's going to work. Again, I'm having to alter stuff. Every time you have to alter, you're losing some of the quality.
This morning, quite shocked to discover we were.
That's better. I still am not a big fan of it, so I'm going to undo everything. And another option you can do is go into, once again, the effects. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to something called filter and EQ, filter and equalizer. And if I go to the filter and EQ and I go to the FFT filter, and I'm going to highlight through here. I'm going to highlight more than I would usually want to do. I'm going to go to the FFT filter, and within it, one of the presets that you can do is kill the mic rumble. And if I do the kill the mic rumble, I know you can't see it, but I'm looking at a visual representation, and it shows it's going to get rid of all of the frequency below 80. Which is where a lot of the plosives are. This one's a little bit interesting one just because the sound that he was making, it wasn't a pure P or B. So I'm going to click apply, and you really didn't see much happen. But let's see if it's got a difference.
This morning, quite shocked to discover we were only feet from several skateboarders.
And if you have headphones on, really good headphones, you're actually going to hear a quality difference in there. But if you're just using your regular speakers on your computer, it's not going to be. All right, with the time left that I have, and then hopefully we can do a few Q&A. One thing I always want to say, should have said this up front, I love audio editing. I mean, I could spend hours and hours and hours doing audio editing. I love doing long form. I love radio dramas, audio dramas. It's just something to me that's awesome. But I would never consider myself an audio editor expert because that takes just hours and hours and hours. And shortcuts and tricks and muscle memory and stuff like that. Get to where you get that. And the cool thing with podcasts today, there are getting to be more audio production jobs than there used to be. All right, so what I want to do is we're going to go to multi-track because I want to work on sweepers. all of our radio stations, we do sweepers. Sweepers are those little 5-10 second bits between songs that remind us of the radio station that the audience is listening to. You do that for branding. If you're in a smaller market and Nielsen ratings are done by diary, you've got to get that name brand in front of the audience over and over and over and over. In PPM markets, where it's electronically recorded, it's not as important. But with Alexa and all, you need to make sure that the audience remembers who you are. So they ask Alexa, hey, Alexa, play 95.7 The Spin. So you need to continue to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in, and if I go to the right place, I'm going to import. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at sweepers and something called the rule of threes. And a lot of stuff in life can be broken down to a rule of threes. So for some reason, we like having three things happen. And it will move everything along. And I'm getting one other thing that we have that. All right. So I have what I want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to record my threes. And what I'm going to have is 95.7 The Spin. That's our frequency. Or I'm going to go 95.7. That's our frequency. Then The Spin. That's our name. And then the extra little thing. Music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. I kind of like that one. So let's try this. Now the audio is not going to be good. I'm recording this off of the computer microphone. 95.7 The Spin. Music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. There we go. So we have 95.7. And again, quality's not good at all because it is directly off of the computer microphone. I'm going to come in here a little bit tighter. So there's 95.7. Here's The Spin. I'm going to razor this, and I'm going to get rid of all the unwanted stuff. And I'm actually going to flip this some. I'm going to go music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet, 95.7 The Spin. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some sound effects. And I could go in and run some of the other generated effects in here. And so all I'm doing right now is just dropping in, and I've got a hammer, a brass hammer. That's going to be, I'm going to bring that up a little bit eventually here. Then we're going to go to this. As soon as this is done, I want to have a whoosh come in, and then I'm going to bring this across so it follows here. What I did is I put these in the different order than I should have. Right here, I want this to start earlier. I want it to be quick and move. And then here's going to be 95.7 The Spin. And then I want this last one to hit and there. So let's see what we have. Music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. The Spin. 95.7. And I'd actually prefer that this go the other direction. And then I'm going to cut this down at the end and get rid of it because I'm going to want to bail out and fade out some at the end. And I've got this. Music so new, it hasn't even been recorded. 95.7. The Spin. There, and actually it kind of works. It's not real good by any means. But for this one, I might go, you know what? I want to go in and bring some chorus into it. So I'm going to go to delay and echo somewhere in here. I'm going to do an analog delay. There's a bunch of options we have. And here, we'll do one that's going to be way over the top, and it's going to be robotic voice. And so if I solo, music so new, it hasn't even, there. And so that's the robotic voice. I added an element to it. And here is my sweeper. Music so, oh, I got to take it off solo. And I'm going to go, music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. 95.7. This obviously has got to come up. That's just too low. And this one's got to come up as well. Now, 95.7. The spin. Anybody catch what I didn't do? I forgot to run this through the multi-band compressor. And so I'm going to run it through the multi-band compressor using, instead of going up to effects, I'm using this effects rack on the left. And one of the interesting things about this, and you can see I just added it and the little green light turned on. When you do it in multi-track, it actually doesn't change the visual look of things. And so I'm going to do multi-band compressor, broadcast. I just did that to the second track, which was right there. If I hit it on the right one, multi-band compression, I'm going to hit that and we're good to go. Now I'm going to mix down. I'm going to go to my file, mix down multi-track entire session. I want to call this just sweeper. I'm going to hit OK. And if I click sweeper, here it is. Music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. 95.7. The spin. Now, one thing I don't like is this sound is too loud up here. You can see that it extends beyond where I want it to. I'm just going to do the cheap man's approach. I'm going to hit this, bring it down a little bit, and then I'm going to run this through compression again. But what I'm going to do with compression here, it's actually going to bring these loudest sounds down a little bit because I want to make it minus 3 dB instead. So I'm going to hit minus 3 dB. You can see it brought this down, but it brought some others up. And here in just a matter of seconds, we did music so new, it hasn't even been recorded yet. 95.7. The spin. There. And so you now have a sweeper that took you, once you get this down, you could kick this sweeper out in 10 minutes easily. And so, you know, if your manager says, hey, we need 12 sweepers, you could go in there and do that in just a little bit over an hour, especially if you know where to get your sounds. And with that, I wanted to talk about a couple of places that we get our sounds. One is a very low-cost area. It's called SoundSnap, soundsnap.com. It is a fabulous sound effects library. And it costs $200 a year. And there is tons of stuff to work with. And it really works well. Another that, and this one's free, everything I've taught you and anything else that you go, I wonder, man, I want to make my voice sound like the movie trailer voice, which you can do. And I don't have time to show that right now, but you could do that. Just go online and look it up. Everything that you think you want to do, there's somebody who's posted some kind of video on how to do it. Now, of course, part of the problem that you can get into is you might go somewhere and it's an 8-year-old kid telling you how to do it, and that's just embarrassing. One of the best sources that I have found is a guy named Mike Russell, M-I-K-E, Russell, R-U-S-S-E-L-L. And if you just put in Mike Russell Adobe Audition, you will see all of the different things that are in there. And, you know, just real quickly stuff. He'll show you how to bring in ghost effects and how to do the movie voice trailer, how to get rid of the popping sounds and things like that. He is absolutely fantastic. I've never met him. I would love to and just talk to him about what's there, but that is a great source for you to use. Well, we're about out of time. Are there any questions anybody may have?
I think there were a couple of them in the chat. Helped answer some of them, so I
Okay.
don't know if there are any more or not.
Yeah, what I can see, I can't see the full chat thing. It cuts off, unfortunately. But if you want, you could go ahead and drop in a question here. One of the coolest things I like is, and I tell my students, just go try it. If they go, I wonder if I can, go try it. Just see. Because if you do it, especially here in multi-track, in here, everything you do is what's called lossless. And you're not changing the original thing. If I chop this down to here, and all we have is this one sound, and I save it, the original is still there. And I'll just show you how I can do this. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to click save, and I made it small. But guess what? It's still there. And so you can go in and try all sorts of stuff. Let me bring in...
John, I will say there's a question about thoughts about editing out breaths, especially during phone calls. I will say we only have 3 minutes until the session shuts down, so we'll have to touch base off of session.
I don't like breaths. So one, you could go in and individually get rid of all the breaths. That can take forever. The other is, because we're under a time crunch, I'm not going to be able to show you, but go in and you could even do Mike Russell remove breaths. And all you have to do is go in, and there's a setting already in Adobe Audition, and I'm right this moment, I can't remember exactly what it is. You click that, and it's going to remove, for the most part, those breaths. But of course, the other side to it is going to remove some of that frequency that has breaths, but unless you highlight each breath, it's going to do that same thing to the entire file there. And speaking of files, and if you have any other questions, just go ahead and jump in, Lynn. One thing I'd really encourage everybody to do is file management. File management is incredibly important. When you go start a project, create a folder solely for that project and put every sound you use in that project. So that way, when you come back and you want to, let's say the music's too loud in the background and all you need to do is lower the sound of the music. If you haven't saved everything, and let's say you go to a different computer to do this, the computer is not going to be able to find that sound. But if you put everything in one folder, so you've got all the sound effects, you've got the voices, you've got the music, you put it all in one folder dedicated solely for that one piece of work, you can go in, you'll open up the session, there it's going to be, you lower the music, you export it, and you've got it fine. Where if you don't do that, you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to start over and at least add the music. Well, I see I'm down to 1 minute, so I think that's about it. Anything else, Lynn? Anybody ask any last second questions?
No, I think everyone has everything they need. I did mention if they had any additional questions to reach out to you through your profile, and I'm sure you can get back with them.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for sticking through. I really appreciate it, and have fun. Audio editing is a blast.
Thanks, everyone.